Heroes, villains, a tale as old as time, and the never-ending battle to protect truth and justice from those who thrive on chaos and bloodshed. Come with us as we peel back the mask on your beloved Crusaders of Light and dive deep into the dark and twisted abyss of the most feared and hated harbingers of doom. Follow your host, Power Maximus, and everyone's favorite demigod, Lord Triage, as they take a trip down the rabbit hole that is everything super. So, are you a hero or a villain? Either way, find that super suit and suit up for the Super Breakdown.
What is up? What is up? We are back with the Super Breakdown. I am Power Maximus. You already know what it is. We here, we doing it, we killing it as always. And I'm here accompanied by the host with the most, everyone's favorite demigod, Lord Triage. The crowd goes wild. Crowd goes wild. There's pandemonium in the stands. There's fights breaking out all out the place. Oh, somebody threw a chair. Oh, it's Lord Triage. What is up, brother? How's your week been?
I'm chilling, living my best life. I'm actually getting drunk.
You too?
Yes.
What you sipping on, brother, man?
I'm taking a page out of somebody else's playbook. Got some apple cider with some vodka.
Oh, very festive. Very, very festive. You gotta try the apple cider warm with it. That shit will get you real wrecked.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yep. And as for me, as always, I'm sipping upon my good old Terramana tequila. It is an amazing tequila, a very sweet tequila. Pop this shit in the freezer for 30 minutes or more. Oh my God, you're gonna have a good time. You're not gonna it's made with real agave, 100% agave. So you're not gonna have that trashy, shitty hangover after the fact. It goes down smooth. It don't burn like that. You ain't gonna be out here thotting and trotting and all that shit. But Terramana tequila, y'all need to try this shit. It's fucking amazing. But let's get into it. So this week on the Super Breakdown, on this amazing Sunday night or Sunday evening, wherever you are around the world, we are going to be breaking down, since it's spooky season, the first weekend of spooky season for us, we are going to be breaking down the Underworld Saga. And that includes Underworld Evolution, as well as the prequel. Definitely as well as the prequel. That was dope. I don't know. I personally like the prequel, Underworld Rise of the Lycans. We will also be talking about Underworld Awakenings. I don't want to, but I feel like we have to. If we're talking about the highs and lows of this franchise, we have to talk about the lows of the franchise, which would be Underworld Blood Wars, which was no, I'll reserve that for last. Let's see. So executive judge says guess no Agatha talk tonight. Unfortunately not. We're gonna let a few more episodes stack on in, and then we're gonna go over Agatha again. We usually let a few episodes stack up before we dive back into it. Let's see, we waited 3 episodes. We'll probably wait another 3 episodes before we dive back into Agatha. But definitely stay tuned because I'm thoroughly enjoying Agatha, and I just wanna rack up a few episodes to talk about. But yeah, definitely thank you for tuning in for all over on YouTube. But no, yeah, bro, let's get into it. So as always, let's start with you. Let's start uh no, yeah, so we're gonna wait till it gets to 6 episodes, but it's supposed to be I think it's supposed to be like about around 9 episodes because the final episode is going to be a two-parter apparently. So we'll wait another 3 episodes to talk about it, and then we'll see where it is for the at the finale, and we'll talk about it again after the finale. So every 3 episodes of Agatha, then we'll talk about those 3 episodes. So Triage, brother, what how do I phrase this? All right, so when Underworld first came out, when the first movie first dropped, what were your initial thoughts?
I honestly had no prelude or any idea. It was something that I got dragged to see. But I'm not gonna lie, like the second I got in the chair and I got my popcorn, I was buckled the fuck in there. I couldn't wait to see what happens next.
Mm. Yeah, for me, I was definitely at the age I was in, I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I was weird. I was a weird kid. I mean, I'm still a little weird, but it's definitely tone. I was a weird kid, and I was just absolutely fucking enthralled in the mythos of vampires versus werewolves. I was super into the werewolf mythos. I know so much about, you know, backgrounds on werewolf, the background on the vampires and shit like that. So when this movie came out, I was like, "Oh, this is different. This ain't no Wolfman. This ain't no Bram Stoker's Dracula. This is something different. This is something new." And when I first watched it, I didn't see it in theaters. I really wasn't going into the theaters like that when I was that young. But like when I actually watched it on DVD, I was like, this shit is crazy. First off, the first scene of the movie had me hyped. I was locked in from that moment where Shorty jumps off of the top of the cathedral. Shout out to Kate Beckinsale. Jumps off the top of the cathedral and lands and just pops up and walks away like ain't shit happened with that style and that flair. Ooh, I was like, "Oh, this gonna be something good." Hold on, wait, is that a vampire using binoculars? What is he using a camera? What? Okay, this is like some very modern vampire type shit. I'm like, all right, I fucks with it. And then through the camera, you see the bald black dude. What's his name? Francis. Ah, I can't remember his name, but his voice is actually that deep in real life. His voice is actually that deep. But old boy that played Roz, man, then I was like, oh wait, they got a jacked black dude, bald black dude in this bitch. Okay, all right, draw me in a little bit more. I'm like, all right, okay. Like then they get into the subway. I'm like, oh, this is modern. They in a subway. Man, turn around, bloods. I was like, oh, you got a black man screaming bloods. Come on now. All right, that drove back for me. I had to take a little step back, but then boy pulled out. What did he pull? I think he pulled out the tech. He pulled out the tech and just starts spraying into the fucking crowd. Not even to just start spraying. I'm like, whoa, hold on. These niggas got guns? These things got guns? This ain't the werewolf vampire shit that I know. This ain't no Van Helsing. What? I'm used to watching vampires and werewolves like in movies. Niggas is scrapping. Niggas is really squaring up and scrapping. Nah, these niggas is on. Nah, they was pulling the toolies ASAP. As soon as man stopped, sniffed the air, and boy went turn around. Saw dude in the back. Nope. lit him the fuck up. Like so this is one thing I love. One of the things that I love is that when it comes to Underworld, when it comes to vampires and the Lycans, it is on sight. A Lycan run into a vampire, it's on fucking sight. A vampire run into a Lycan, it's on fucking sight. Niggas don't talk, no nothing. They going at it. And that's something that I thoroughly enjoyed. Like this movie, from the first movie had me enthralled from the beginning. From that first scene, I was in it. I was in it. What did that first scene feel like to you?
That was battle lines clearly being established and being drawn.
No, absolutely. Like I feel like the writers of this, they really like they proved that they made it loud and fucking clear from the start of this movie that, like I said, it's on sight. It's on sight.
And the thing that's actually like really interesting in hindsight is the fact that they would wage war like that openly in front of the humans. Because by the time Awakening rolls around, human beings are aware of what's going on, the whole blood feud. But with the reckless abandonment in which these fuckers fought each other, that's not that far off.
And so that's what I also find interesting, because after that scene, after that dope ass scene, and we're gonna circle back to it, because I want to start talking about the Lycans and their transformations in a moment. But what ends up happening after that scene is that she looks down and she sees one of the werewolf's guns from the dead werewolf. She picked up his gun, so she brings it back to the crib. And bro, this is one part I definitely loved: the aesthetic, the visual, the world that they built for this visually looks great. It's like cyber goth for the time period. And I'm like, this is fucking dope. Like, she's walking through like this big ass mansion, right? And like everyone's wearing like suits and fancy clothing and shit. So it's like, for me, it felt like, all right, remember in Blade when he went to the blood rave?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, actually, I take it back. Blade 2, when they went to that other rave and niggas, they was just chilling. It was feeding on each other and then whatever. It felt like the Blade 2 club scene, but with class. Literally just a room full of vampires drinking blood, doing their thing, just fucking chilling with not a care in the world, dressed all fancy and shit like that, just vampire being vampire. And then she goes to the back, and then you see like these niggas got a whole ass armory there. A whole fucking armory there.
Arm to the teeth.
To the fucking fangs. Arm to the fangs, nigga. And she drops the gun on the table, and what do we see? Another bald black dude who is in charge of the weapons, a weapons expert. I'm like, well, shit, okay. Fuck yeah, bet. And so he does analysis and comes to find out that those ain't just regular rounds. They're using UV rounds. They're using UV irradiated bullets that have been specially made to kill vampires.
Well, I think it's one of those things where he mentioned that he thinks because Craven refused to believe that the dogs were smart enough to make something like that. He's like, it's probably something they stole. And the one who was like, whether they stole it or made it, that's not the point. The fact of the matter is these fuckers are using it.
Yeah. Because for centuries, the vampires had somehow ended up getting the upper hand on the werewolves, even though werewolves are the Lycans are stronger than the vampires in every way.
I think it was one of those things where because they were unorganized, they were always on defense opposed to ever playing offense, and in between, you gotta remember they weren't really organized at the time of Lucian's rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they were more or less, on the run, this, that, and the third. So then, like, once he came about and was like, nah, we're about to start putting the beast cities in, because it became a whole different story. And then the other thing is that the vampires could more openly blend in society to the point where they could do certain shit. Like you would have took from them that they own half of downtown.
Interesting enough, throughout the movie, you hear that. So when after Michael gets played by Scott Speedman, gets bitten by Lucian, she brings him to a safe house and she hands him a pack of blood, and he's like, "What?" And it has a label on it, and she's like, "Yeah, we own that." So they own their own, they own their own hospital and blood bank. So yeah, so but here's the thing, this is what I find interesting. The Lycans literally could rule the day and the night, while the vampires only could rule the night, right?
I'd say yes and no to that because it's one of those things where the werewolves didn't necessarily really lose any of their physical strength and speed in their human form. Like you see that when Lucia runs down the car, but it's like
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where because, like I said, they don't truly tap their full potential unless they're transformed. So, like technically they could, but it's one of those things where I think they were so behind the eight ball because of everything that happened before that. It was hard for them to transition and catch up.
I honestly, I think that's what it was as well. It probably so unlike this is this is what I'm getting from what you're saying. It took the Wolves longer to transition to modern society. Well, no, all right, so yeah, so yes and no. So yes and no to that, because what we end up finding out is that the vampire Craven actually made a deal with the leader of the Lycans, Lucian.
That fucking traitor.
That motherfucker. Oh my god. If he wasn't the man, oh my god. That motherfucker felt like Donald Trump to me.
What?
This nigga was just doing whatever he could to gain power, no matter who it fucking hurt.
Well, maybe he was just trying to make vampires great again.
And the same thing I say to MAGA, the same thing I'm gonna say to this shit. In that world of Underworld, at what point were the vampires great?
You mean the werewolves?
No. At what point were because Craven's a vampire. I was talking about Craven. Craven gives me Donald Trump vibes.
No, so his whole thing was the power dynamic. Like
exactly.
Not to that aspect. Like you're saying, like one was like the whole argument with the not to make this super political, boys and girls, is that the whole thing, like when people talk about make America great again, like America's only been great for certain groups of people if you look at it from that dynamic.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, for example, like when I say he had a power, it was a power struggle for him. Like look at did you ever watch Spartacus?
No, even though you gave me the DVD, I did not watch it.
Correct.
Sorry.
All right. So like if you sat through Spartacus, you see the whole thing about how the Roman Republic was what it was and how it got built higher by Spartacus's rebellion. Spartacus's rebellion actually did more harm than good because his rebellion is what directly leads to Julius Caesar coming to power.
Yes.
And like the whole thing was between Caesar, Crassus, and Pompey is that they became the tribunal triumvirate. I can't remember how it was said. Please forgive me. And it was supposed to be that when the three of them pushing for power the way they did, is that it literally caused the whole power struggle between Pompey and Caesar. So like the whole vacuum is that Aemilia, Marcus, and Victor were basically that. They were the elders.
But sorry to cut you off. But that was the thing. Victor put in a system so that there wouldn't be a power struggle. One awake while two sleep, and every 1,000 years they rotate. So in the time frame within Underworld, it was Amelia's reign, and at the point that Underworld takes place when the movie starts, it's 3 days before Amelia goes to sleep, and they awaken Marcus. So they had already cured that power struggle. So, and there's different factions or whatever. So the people that were like really rocking with Victor, like Craven in that coven, right? And then there was Amelia and her overarching, like she was like the big head of everything, while Craven was essentially a lieutenant of his coven. So Amelia, and so the way I understood it was the big three, Marcus, Victor, and Amelia, they were the head of the vampire race. And then there was then underneath that there were separate covens. And the leader of that coven was kind of like the lieutenant, right? And so Craven came to power within that coven because he, air quote, kills Lucian while Victor, while Victor's still awake, right? And so Victor's like, all right, it's my time to go to sleep. You've proven yourself. So while I sleep, you'll be in charge of this part of the coven. Right? But you still got to answer to Amelia. But you my nigga, you my lieutenant. Just know when I wake up, I got you type shit. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like there wasn't really a vacuum, but Craven, to me, it seemed like Craven had a complex. And a lot of that complex came from Celine, who was also the main character played by Kate Beckinsale. Because even though like he was leader and she followed orders, she didn't respect this nigga Craven at all. Because her air quote father was Victor. So, but Celine was the best out of all the death dealers, who everyone looked up to her. So he's like, if she doesn't fall in line, the rest of them aren't going to fall in line. And until I can get her under control, I'm never going to have true power. And that's all he wanted. And that also goes the same way with Lucian. Him making that deal with Lucian, he wasn't going to follow through on his end of the bargain. So his thing was, all right, you pretend to be dead, build your forces, do whatever the fuck you want to do, stay on the low. Y'all people survive, my people survive, and we do our thing separately, right? But Craven wasn't going to follow through on that. And Lucius knew that he wasn't going to follow through on that. Which is why Lucius was like, all right, I got my own plan. Now, mind you, this deal was made centuries ago. And I like how they give like a perspective timeline that like the problems that they're dealing with now all started. They didn't start yesterday. They didn't start a week ago. They didn't start a month ago. This has been a lie that's been perpetuated over centuries. Since before Victor went to sleep. Because to my understanding, Victor went to sleep after the fall of Lucian and the Lycan rebellion. To my understanding, to my understanding, I may be wrong because I also haven't read the literature that's come with the Underworld series, so I'm not 100% sure. Because apparently there's a book that happens like between the prequels and the first one. So I'm not 100% sure on like that the timeline that may set up. But no, that's the reason why I see Craven as like a Donald Trump, because he's manipulating everyone, including Amelia, trying to manipulate Celine, but Celine's not having that shit. He's manipulating the entire coven so that he gains power. There's no power struggle here. There's no power vacuum in this situation. It's just him wanting more power. That's the way I see it. That's what I mean. And in a situation like, like you said, trying to make vampires great again. Can't really say they were ever great, because in the reality of the grand scheme of things, the Lycans aren't the real bad guys here. The vampires are, and the vampires don't know it. It was the vampires that started the vampires threw the stone first. And it all stemmed from some shit that neither one of them could have really controlled, really. No. So I don't know. I mean, am I wrong? Am I and what the way I'm thinking, or do I gotta change a little something? Do you know a little bit more than I do?
No. So like the point I was trying to make is that the whole thing with the vacuum was the fact that he created the power vacuum because the whole thing with them not dying, with them being immortal, there was no room for anyone to ever move up. So like you said,
True.
he wanted to be the HNIC, but because Victor was looked at as the monarch, which he was because he was a king at one point in time. And that's the other thing too. Like you never really got the concept of how many people survived and actually knew what was actually going on because you figured
Oh,
if
that's
anyone,
true.
if anyone knew the truth about Marcus, it would have had to been Victor and Amelia, if anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And then Victor's army, because Victor's army got turned to help Marcus. Excuse me. Yeah, to help Marcus capture William.
Oh, wait. Oh, okay. So, for that, I can definitely explain that. So, no one knew about Marcus until Victor. No one knew about werewolves and vampires until Marcus turned Victor. So, to everybody's knowledge, Victor was the first vampire because nobody knew about Marcus at all. At all, even from the beginning, nobody knew about Marcus until Victor's like, "Oh, this my new lieutenant." You know what I mean? So like he
Mhm.
just popped up out of nowhere, and no one really knew what had happened because him turning him was in private, and nobody knew about that. Even the people that Victor ruled over at the time didn't know what was going on. They had suspicions and there was rumors and stuff like that, but nobody really knew. But no, yeah. So I ended up I learned that later on. Actually, I learned that recently. Well, I put two and two together because that was my question too. Like, how was it? But no, even I believe even Amelia didn't know because it was Victor that turned Amelia. So the way it goes, it was Marcus was the first, Victor was the second, Amelia was the third. That they're the top three vampires. They're the three oldest vampires in that entire world. Mm. So that I think that's why. But no, I agree with you. Like, yeah, Victor was at the end of the day, Victor was the head nigga in charge. He was the first in their eyes. Oh, this is what it is. Endless War. It's a book. Animation? It's a book, animation, episodes. So it's like a little series. So apparently there's an animated series for Underworld as well called Underworld Endless War that follows Celine across 3 separate periods of history as she hunts a group of Lycan brothers.
Mm.
I had no clue about that. That's interesting. That's very interesting. So I wanna check that out and see what that's all about as well. Not the same actors at all whatsoever. What going through that at all. Um, what? Corbin. Interesting, but I don't- I don't know. Like I feel like for him it was all in his head. For Craven, it was kind of all in his head. He was making up that power vacuum. You know what I mean? Because before Victor went to sleep, he said, "I'm appointing him. This is the dude that y'all follow." So I think Craven was just. I really feel like he was kind of it was just in his head. He was just he had his own insecurities about the whole thing. I don't know. That's what it seemed like. I don't know, but I don't know. You also you may have a point though. Point is the nigga did it to himself. I really feel like that's the overall arching theme when it comes to Craven. He did it to himself. He did it. Yeah, he kind of did that shit to himself. But now, one thing that I found overly like that I just like fucking flooded my mind that I always found interesting was, and again, we're still kind of we're in the overarching idea of the lore right now, because the first movie sets up the reason why we're talking about the first movie because the first movie sets up a lot of the lore. It opens the book to a lot of the lore. The movie goes deep. The second movie, Evolution, goes deeper into the lore. The first one opens it up. So we end up finding out that the vampires and the Lycans are actually related, essentially,
I
right?
take it as like they're distant cousins.
Yeah, yeah. Well, not even distant cousins. They're like legit cousins. Well, I mean, in the overarching theme of things, they're like legit cousins. It's not like, your cousin by your aunt's cousin's sister's mother's whatever, you know what I mean? Like, no. So everything all started with one person, Alexander
Corvinus.
Corvinus, and he was a Hungarian warlord who ended up being the sole survivor of a plague that ravaged everything, right? But he ends up finding out that the only reason why he solely survived was because he had a certain mutation in his blood, and when the virus came in contact with him in his blood, it ended up mutating him and making him immortal. Now, Alexander, rebuilds his empire, and he ends up marrying a woman named Helena. Him and Helena have 3 kids, right? All 3 of them are born with this mutation. One brother ends up getting bitten by a rabid wolf, William, and another brother ends up getting bitten by a bat, Marcus. There's a third brother that is cursed to live out as a mortal being. Right. So what we end up finding out is that this is in fact a genetic virus. So while the third brother, and this is an unnamed brother, they really never give that brother a name. They never do. Yeah, I was going through and I was watching a lot of stuff, and nowhere could I find a name for the third brother. Now, what ends up happening is the brother that was bitten by a bat becomes the first vampire, and the brother that was bitten by the rabid wolf clearly became the first werewolf. Now, the thing about the difference between William and Marcus was that though William was bitten by the wolf, he cannot turn back to his human form. He was always in constant form of the wolf, always angry, rabid, and hunting. Marcus, on the other hand, he had the ability to, go back and forth between being a dope ass looking, vampire to, being, looking human.
Now, see, I was always confused by that. So when you see, I don't know, when you watch Underworld Evolution, and then you actually get to see him as like his like form, and he's like how he's basically like a hybrid bat. Like I was always curious, was that because he drunk werewolf blood and that was his body adapting to it, like, or was that just always the way he looked?
That was always the way he looked. He had that ability to turn because he had the most purest form of he is the most purest vampire. Because as time went along, as he bites this person, bites that person, so on and so forth, the virus does get diluted as time goes along. That's just genetics. You know what I mean? So like if a vampire and a vampire have a kid, that kid's gonna be their strain of the Corvinus virus is gonna be stronger than, let's say, if that vampire had a kid with a human, and that human is that kid, now it dilutes the Corvinus virus even more. So for him, it was the purest form. He was bitten by a bat, thus he ended up taking the form of the bat. The rest of them were not. They were bitten by another person, so another person kind of thing. So that's to my understanding from what I've read and stuff like that. But yeah, so Hungarian warlord Alexander Corvinus has ends up having 3 sons. One gets bit by a bat, other one by a vampire, one gets nothing. So now you have 3 strands of DNA now. You have the wolf DNA, you have the bat DNA, and now you have the regular human DNA. And this is really what starts it all, because Lucian, if now we're moving on to the 3rd movie, which is the prequel. The prequel lets it be known that it's forbidden clearly for for species to mix. It's forbidden for a werewolf and a vampire to have to be together. Now, Lucian, the leader of the first ever Lycan, the first ever werewolf being that was able to transform and be in human form and go back and forth between wolf and human form, he ends up falling in love with the true daughter, actually blood daughter of Victor, which is Sonia.
Mm-hmm.
And they're having all wild types of sex underneath everything in a cavern. Niggas is leaning back over the cliff side. Like that's some wild love making right there. That's love making that you trust that they gonna hold you up and not let you fall over that. That's love right there. But she ends up being pregnant. Victor finds out and essentially burns her at the stake. He chains Lucian and her up in a room, has her on a stake, and opens up this hole in the ceiling, letting the sunlight shine through. And as punishment towards both of them, she dies and he watches her die. And that's what starts the blood war. So the vampires are the fault. Victor started the whole shit. That motherfucker. Victor started the whole shit. And so from there, through Lucian's rage, he transforms into a wolf and escapes. And then he ends up creeping back. He ends up going, which is wild because he, in his human form, he ends up going to where all the werewolves are hanging out, into their den. And he's almost attacked, but the leader of the werewolves stops and looks at him, sniffs him, and then stands down and recognizes him as one of them. And it's like, all right, bet. We'll rock with you, Lucian. You said you want to take down the vampires? We'll rock with you. Bet. Because apparently this breed of werewolf that they're dealing with, that it's like, centuries of werewolf, of Lycan blood down, has some cognizant ability. So the thing with William is anybody that William bit, they were cursed forever. They could not turn back into human form, and they were just essentially rabid beasts that would just kill. Now, what I found dope is this is something new that I've never that I never found within any kind of werewolf lore. William biting somebody, even if they're dead, he's able to, his bite revives them as a werewolf. Like, that's new. I've never read any of that in any kind of lore anywhere. for
So
werewolves ever.
you said if someone was dying, his bite revived them as a werewolf?
No. If like dead bodies, let's say, so he bit them and like ripped their snapped their neck or whatever and killed them. The fact that he bit them and transferred the virus to them, they came back to life. They were like dead, but the virus reanimated them.
Well, maybe that's one of those things like why they were so ravenous. Because what was it they said in Resident Evil? Like the T virus reanimated the body, but it only reanimated the most primitive parts, and it only reanimated with the most basic of needs. And what was the most basic need? But the need to feed.
Yep.
So in hindsight, if anything, that makes more sense. And that would also make sense to why they couldn't transform back to their normal form, because if the higher function of the brain is dead.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, exactly. And even then, and so that's, like I said, that's more of a zombie thing. That's more of a zombie thing. But the fact that they brought that into, into the world of vampires and werewolves, that's only something that we've seen, like, heard of, like, vampires doing. Vampire, the undead. You know what I'm saying? So to make it a werewolf thing, I thought that was really fucking cool. Really fucking cool. But I don't know. I feel like those first 3 movies fucking slapped. No, yeah, the first 3 movies fucking slapped. Like, all right, the second one was definitely a little bit meh. It was definitely a little meh, but I don't know. I feel like that the prequel brought it back. I thought the prequel was better than the first and second one. What do you think?
So my feelings on that is like, shit, you could even take the first one, the second one to be as one movie because they were done so closely together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, like, I guess it all depends on what your idea of what a sequel is. So if you look at the Lord of the Rings,
Mm-hmm.
like, do you think of the Fellowship, the Two Towers, and then the Return of the King as 3 different movies, or do you just think of it as one long movie?
Yeah, I think of it as one long movie.
Right? Like, certain series are done so well or done so closely, you can look at them like that.
Mm-hmm. Even the time frame within the 2 movies, Evolution picks up, I think, like a week or like a month after, the ending of the first one, because they're on the run. So it's like the time frame is like really close together, like within the films. I don't know how much time was between the films. I think it was about a year or 2 years between the films, but like the time frame in the movie was literally only like a couple months, maybe even weeks. So I found that interesting.
Right?
Yeah, but yeah, I see what you're saying. I can definitely see him as one movie.
Let's say especially the first 2, the prequel, maybe not so much. And if anything, there should have been something between the Rise of the Lycans and Awakening that actually showed Lucian maybe more rallying the troops and showed how they hit back against the vampires. Because in hindsight, it's like, so what did they do? Spend a century or longer playing cat and mouse?
Honestly, yeah. So according to Craven, that's really what it was. That's really what it ended up being. Was they were just warring against each other, and then it got to a point where the vampires were winning, and that's when the deal was made between Lucian and Craven. And that was that fight was the fight that essentially ended the war, air quote, ended the war. And so everything that they had been doing since then was just cleanup, according to Craven. From what he says in the first movie, everything else is just a few. Because Celine, so after the whole subway scene, she goes deeper into the subway, and she hears a bunch of werewolves fighting, rallying, this and that, blah 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 blah. And so she goes back. She's like, "Yo, no, like, I don't think it's just like a little den." He's like, "Yeah, I'll have Soren go through and check it out." So she's like, "No, we need to hit that shit in force, because from what I heard, there could be a few hundred wolves down there.
Yeah,
It's
and he
not a
like
little den.
and he dismissed it like, oh, a few hundred. Oh, their numbers haven't been that big since the time of Lucian. Like, I think you're imagining things. Da, da, da. Like he just dismissed her.
Trying to cover his own ass because he knows that there's a few hundred. There's a lot of wolves down there, and so he's just trying to write it off like, yeah, no, it's nothing. It's nothing. You crazy. You overzealous. You think that you're right because you Victor's favorite. And no. So he starts trying to discredit her to everyone else so that they start looking at him like, oh, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. She crazy. What? Hundreds of wolves in one den? That's crazy. Yeah, no. Yeah, that. But I agree with you. I would have liked to see a film that, something that took place. Actually, even something that took place a little bit closer to the first movie, like pretty much what Lucius was doing from the time that the deal was made between him and Craven. Even if it like bled in to the first movie, because there's a scene where Roz and the other wolves aren't able to capture Michael. So the whole reason why, and my bad, we should have touched on this closer to the beginning. The reason why Michael is such an important role is because Michael is the last. I don't want to say the last. He's not the last surviving, but he's the only other person within that time period that they haven't tested to see if he has the Corvinus virus, because Michael is a direct descendant of Alexander Corvinus, Michael Corvin. All right. And I thought that was really cool. That was a nice little touch on the name because, names, really old names have a tendency to change as the time goes on. So it went from Corvinus to just Corvin.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really nice attention to detail with that as well. So they're tracking down. So Lucius wants to find, because Lucius doesn't want a war. He doesn't want a war because his love with Sonya proved that vampires and Lycans can coexist together. So he kind of wants everybody to kind of get along, but at the same time, he wants to have Michael on their side, because if he's able to create a being that is both vampire and Lycan, because apparently if you're a vampire and you get bit by a werewolf, you die. If you're a werewolf and get bit by a vampire, you die. So he wants to create a being that is stronger than both werewolf and vampire, but is also on his side, so that he can turn the tide of the war. Right? Because let's go back to what is always said. History is dictated by the winner. And according to everything, the vampires won. So shit got a little weird and funky, and it was rewritten that the vampires were the good guys and shit like that. Yeah, so like I love the idea of like the whole genetic thing side of shit, where they're just trying to, get one person that can become both werewolf and vampire. And towards the end, Celine ends up realizing, she finds out that, oh shit, Craven is lying. The vampires are never right. The entire thing was started by the vampires, and Lucian is actually the good guy to an extent. He's most definitely slaughtered millions of vampires within his lifetime.
Well, but that's just like the whole thing with Riddick. Like, like Riddick always said, like, it's not my fault people came after me, they ended up dead.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree.
So it's one of those things, like, my father taught me a man doesn't start a fight and complain about how it ends. Like, you took my freedom, you took the love of my life, and then you were going to try to make an example out of me. Not only the fact that you've been mistreating and enslaving my people, nah, my nigga, we're catching the ultimate fade.
Ultimate fade. And he did. The fucking Victor lost that fight that they had together. Victor lost that fight. Like, he had to do some sneaky shit and literally run away and retreat in order for him to survive. Because Lucian was coming for that ass. No Diddy.
Nah, I think it was full Diddy.
Honestly, yeah, I think it was full Diddy. Yeah, I definitely think it was full Diddy. He's about to do some wild things to that body just to make a point.
Whoa.
Yeah, no, listen. Like, this nigga saved his daughter from getting absolutely ripped apart by he broke the rules to save this nigga's daughter. And this nigga repays him by whipping him with silver blade. It was like what was it? It was a silver coated cat o' nine.
Yeah. I think, what was it, like 20, 30 lashes or some shit?
Yeah. Like, come on now. Like, yeah, no, he's trying to catch the ultimate fade. He's trying to get as much revenge as he possibly can on that man. Like, I can see him, like, keeping him alive, and then just during the day periodically opening the shades and just hitting him with sun periodically just to get his revenge. Yeah, how it feel? Yeah, that's how your daughter felt when you decided to burn her alive. Yeah. I can see him getting all the female Lycans together and be like, go handle him. Making all these female Lycans run a train on Victor, just be like, yeah. You don't want to consummate with a bunch of other how's it feel? Type shit. How's it feel to be used and abused and treated like a slave? Type shit. That was in Lucian's eyes. Lucian would definitely have done some shit like that.
What?
I'm just saying the revenge, bro. The amount of shit that Victor did to him and his people. This nigga Lucian had no remorse for Victor. My only part that I'm pissed about is that Lucian didn't get his lick back and got shot in the back about 5 times by that bitch ass Craven. And wasn't able to get his lick back on Victor fully. Like, that shit's personal, bro. That shit's personal. And the fact that he was using Lucian to create more next gen Lycans. So not only did you imprison my mother, right? But then once she had me, you saw that I was human and could transform back and forth. You killed her, and then you raised me and abused me, and then forced me to change other people so that you then enslaved, beat and abused, and this, that, and the third. Then you kill the woman I love and unborn child. Let's not forget that, and unborn child, because she was pregnant. And unborn child. And then when I saved your daughter, you still decided to reprimand me and abuse me. And then killed her and my unborn child. And then proceeded to try to wage war against me and my people when we're just trying to get our lick back. Oh, man, this nigga Lucian had every right to do diabolical shit to that nigga Victor. In my eyes, he had every right to do diabolical shit. That's just the way I see it.
That shit sounds crazy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Honestly, I don't even know why I said Lucian was going to have the the female Lycans run a train on Victor. I don't even know why I said that. I think that's a Terramana talking. But yo, let's take a quick break. We're gonna come back and we're gonna start breaking down the later movies and how they relate to the lore that the first, second, and third movie set up. So let's take a quick break. Let's hear from our amazing friends, Midnight Comics, Room Full of Blurs, and with Lady Mandalore, as well as Icarus Podcast. And let's take a look at the new clothing line that Heartline Comics just dropped. So after that, we'll be right back and we're going to go in. All right. You heard me.
Going on, everybody, Lloyd Jones with Midnight Comics here, and we'd like to introduce you guys to our show, The Indie Breakdown, a show where we break down your favorite indie comic book characters' power, stats, and abilities, and get them ready for an eventual indie versus matchup. All Indie Breakdown episodes go live first on Spotify and on Patreon, with them eventually showing up on YouTube. So if you guys want to check out The Indie Breakdown and learn more from your favorite indie comic book creators, now's the time to do so. We hope you guys decide to tune in, and remember, until next time, midnight is coming.
Hi, I go by Lady Mandalore, the creator of Room Full of Blurs. Do you have a whiteboard in your room? Do people get a glazed over look in their eye when you start to explain things to them? Well, come join me every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we can talk comics and get to know some new creators of color, only on YouTube and Twitch.
What's going on, everybody? It's me, Calvin, from the Icarus Podcast, and I just want to say that we got new episodes coming next Saturday and every Saturday after that. So all I will have to say from here is keep enjoying the show. You can check us out, www.icarusmetrocomics.com. Check us out on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and more. See y'all next time.
Join the Pulse. We're excited to announce the launch of Heartline Comics' newest line, the Barcode Collection. Our fresh drop just hit the internet and is turning heads. Imagine this: you're rocking our merch, and friends can scan the barcodes to instantly connect with the Heartline Comics website. It's a game changer. Stay ahead of the curve and never miss a beat. Subscribe to our website for exclusive alerts on the latest merch drops and the newest comics hitting the shelves. Be part of the Heartline community and show off your style with pride. Trust us. You don't want to miss this.
All right, and we're back again. Please go check them out, man. They're doing some amazing shit. They got some awesome shit going on. Shout out to Lord and Tasha of Midnight Comics. Shout out to Lady Mandalore, Room Full of Blurs. Oh my God, you guys are doing some amazing things. Please keep going. Shout out to Icarus. Y'all doing amazing things within the indie comic book universe. You're also doing some amazing things for us as Black creatives, also known as Blurs. You're doing some amazing things for us. You guys are opening up a lot of doors that, we didn't think were even possible, that, even existed, that we can walk through. But yeah, amazing. Thank you guys. Heartline Comics, your art is amazing. You guys are opening a lot of doors as well. And your merch looks fucking sick. The art on the merch is amazing. So please go check them out. Midnight Comics, Room Full of Blurs. Looks like I believe she actually just ended her episode just now. So go check it out. Room Full of Blurs on YouTube. Go check out the episode that she just finished. And then as well, Icarus Podcast. They do a show every Saturday. Absolutely amazing. And then Heartline Comics. Man, their art is absolutely amazing. Their stories are so deep. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. So, kudos to you guys. Shout out to you guys. Hopefully we're gonna be on that level. We're gonna be on that level soon. We got some plans. We working on some plans. But nah, yeah. So before we get into these last two movies, Underworld Awakenings and Underworld Blood Wars, I forget the name because it was such a forgettable movie. What were, how do I say, Underworld Evolution, and the prequel Underworld Rise of the Lycans? What is your overall thoughts on all three movies as one cohesive kind of thing? Because clearly, 4 and 5 take place outside of the universe that they built with the first three. So what are your thoughts on the first three?
Well, I wouldn't say that they took place outside of the world or the universe that they built. I think it was the universe naturally for progressing, because like I said before, like human beings, especially with the way they waged war and like open disregard for the safety of the public, it was only a matter of time for people caught on and started asking questions. And then, especially once Alexander Corvinus died, because he was the one that said that he cleaned up the mess. That was probably the biggest issue, is because Corvinus died. Like he literally spent all his time cleaning up after William and Marcus.
That's true, and all his essential grandchildren. Yeah,
Right? Like, those vampires know they're mortal men loyal to Alexander Corvinus, the father of us all. That's literally what Talon said. So that was probably like one of the biggest disservice that they did to themselves when he died. And as far as the first three go, so like I said, the only thing that bothered me was at the time of Lucian leading the rebellion, him doing all the things, like the whole thing with him being demoralized as this villain and how he was doing all these wild shit. That was never actually physically shown. If anything, they should have shown the whole battle where Craven led his forces, in my air quotations, against Lucian's werewolves, and he's supposed to cut the branded flesh from his arm. And then he brought it back to Victor, like, yo, I took care of the problem. He's dead. Because that's what really got him his clout, because he was like, oh, you've done what no one else can. He's like, you've done me this great service. I'm going to reward you with a higher rank within the coven. But it's like, as we all know, that was bullshit. So, so that's like the only thing that I think fell short for me between those two. Between those three movies.
no, yeah, absolutely agree. Like I said, I would have really enjoyed seeing that moment. It was nice the way they introduced the moment, as something that was hidden, that was forbidden, that no one ever knew. But after they revealed that, I would have liked to see that. Even if clearly they're not going to do another movie because the last two destroyed the franchise. I've never seen a movie drop. I mean, they could. I feel like they could revive it. It's been long enough that I think people could forget. Yeah, I think people could forget the last one.
Well, my issue with that is that so between Awakening and Blood Wars is that there's so much shit that happens between the vampires, the werewolves, and the general public. Like, it should have been, if anything, they should have come to some kind of common ground, some kind of uneasy truce, and had been working against like a cult of fanatical humans. So it's like if you had got people who realized, like you've seen Transformers.
Yeah.
Like you had all these people who had lost family members who were military or soldiers who started feeling some kind of way towards the Autobots and Decepticons. Like they don't feel that there's anything such thing as a good Transformer. They feel that you're just an alien invader who's just on their shore. And it's like if they started to feel that way towards the Lycans and the vampires, like, oh, I don't care which descendant of Corvinus you are, you're the enemy as far as I'm concerned. So it should have been to the point where they were like, what if someone had devised a virus or an airborne like chemical that could have killed everyone with the Corvinus gene? Because technically anyone who is a werewolf or a vampire carries it.
Or even then, you got to remember, even human.
But that's only some humans. That's not all humans.
Yeah, that's got to be a lot of people that have that dormant Corvinus gene.
And that's also people that have potential to become something like them. So there would be someone who's fucking fanatical, who was crazy, like fucking Beauregard Trask, who created the Sentinels and X-Men, who created Master Mold, and Master Mold's whole thing was like, I'm going to kill all mutants. But the problem with that is that
killed anyone with an X gene or even a dormant X gene.
Like humans evolve for mutants. Therefore, as long as humans always exist, there will always be potential for mutants.
Yep. No, I like that. That would have been really cool. We see Marvel doing a lot of retcons and shit like that. I would be interested to see them. The movies were done by Lionsgate, right? I'm pretty sure they were done by Lionsgate. I would be interested in seeing Lionsgate do a kind of retcon for the last movie because they did a lot. So in movies, you can see, especially movies that have a lot of like really deep lore, like Underworld. There's a lot of lore that goes into that, into that franchise. You see that, there's shit. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I would like to see them retcon the shit when Blood Wars. Yeah, so there's a lot of movies that, later on you start seeing them doing a lot of good things, toward the lore, and then a lot of bad things towards the lore. A lot of people going through that right now with the what the Lord of the Rings series. Is it Ring of Power, or is it the second series?
Rings of Power. Is that what you're talking about? I haven't watched that season.
Yeah, I honestly I haven't watched it at all. But because I've just never been a Lord of the Rings guy.
Really?
Yeah, I just feel like there was just a lot. There's a lot. I feel like out of any of the fictional like stories and stuff like that, to my knowledge, like Lord of the Rings has the most lore and the most world building, because all we've seen on the big screen has literally just been a drop in an ocean. You know what I mean? Like the three Lord of the Rings movies and then the three Hobbit movies is literally just a splash in the ocean of lore that Lord of the Rings has. Because you also have to look at the Silmarillion as well. And it's everything in the Silmarillion is before the Hobbit. And the Hobbit is hundreds of years, to my understanding. And I wish Jay was in this episode. Hopefully Jay's watching. What's up, Jay? Hopefully, and so there's so much time between the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings as well. So those two movies are literally just a drop in an ocean of lore that the Lord of the Rings has. So, so you see a lot of these things, if you're a real fan of the lore of certain things, and you're like, hold on, that's not lore accurate. You're doing a massive injustice to the franchise in itself. And I think that's what Blood Wars did. There was more things that they did wrong in Blood Wars that they did right in Blood Wars. And to me, I feel like everything, I do not remember not one thing that they did right in Blood Wars.
Well,
Awakening, there was the percentage of good to bad was I'd say about I'd say like it was more bad than good in Awakenings, but enough good to be like, all right, cool, it's passing. So, but Blood War completely took what they established in Awakenings, because Awakenings was actually supposed to be two parts. It's supposed to be essentially a separate franchise from one Evolutions and Rise of the Lycans. It's supposed to be a whole new era that they were going into with it. So it's supposed to be Underworld Awakenings Part 1 or Awakenings, and then the next movie after that was supposed to be Underworld Awakening 2. But apparently Scott Speedman backed out, and there was just a whole bunch of red tape bullshit. So they're like, oh well, we're just gonna drop a movie, and it literally from Celine ended up finding this covered in this vampire coven in fucking it was like the Antarctic or
like middle of fucking nowhere, just East Bumblefuck, just
the freezing cold East Bumblefuck that had mystical powers when the entire franchise has based the werewolf and vampire lore within science. For them to then randomly in one movie take it to a mystic level made zero fucking sense to me. Right? And then killing the last descendant of Alexander Corvine, not counting their daughter, And Awakenings, we find out that Selene ended up actually having a daughter, and she was a true hybrid, which was literally a vampire and a werewolf together, born that way. She was the first of her kind. All the while Lucian and Sophia's Sonia, Lucian and Sophia's child was actually supposed to be the first child born of a vampire and a Lycan. But now that I'm thinking about it, she would be something completely different, because she would be born of a vampire and a hybrid, which would be the first of her kind.
Yeah, so if anything, she was more vampire than she was werewolf.
Exactly. Because I look at it with me genetically, my father is Bayesian, 100%. His mother and his father, my grandparents, are from Barbados, 100%. My father is 100% Bayesian, pure blood, 100%. My mother, on the other hand, my mother is mixed. She's black and white. And then within that, there's a bunch of other, spots of everything everywhere else. Right. So to me, I'm 50% Bayesian, and then 50% is just mixed with a shit ton of other shit across the world. So that's what Selene and Michael's child would have been. You know what I mean? So she would have been 75% vampire and 25% werewolf.
I thought you were gonna go more Pan and Gohan and Videl with this, but that works too.
Yeah, I'm not, me, I'm not a big Dragon Ball Z fan. I like it. I think it's cool, but I'm not going to say that I'm a massive fan. I know a lot about it because I know somebody that knows a lot about it. That is a hardcore fan. So I happen to know a lot about it. But no, yeah, I think that would be a good way to explain it as well. Pan is the grandchild of Goku. Goku's 100% Saiyan. Chi-Chi half Saiyan. Gohan is half Saiyan. I'm sorry, no. Chi-Chi is human. Sorry. And then Gohan half human, half Saiyan. And then Gohan is half human, half Saiyan. Videl is all human. So Pan is like a quarter Saiyan.
Correct.
Yeah, Pan would be a quarter Saiyan. So with I forget the name of the daughter. But she would end up being a quarter Lycan. I feel like they could have did something a little bit cooler with her transformation.
Yeah, that fell flat for me.
Yeah, there was no real transformation. Like her eyes went what color did her eyes go? They were black with a white middle, and she got looked like she got to end up with extra mascara and shit around her and eyeliner around, and then her mouth got bigger, her teeth got bigger, and then she had fangs, and her skin went super pale. But that was it. And she had claws, but she ended up having. So yeah, she was more. She was essentially more vampire than Lycan. I just wish there was. I wish they would have taken the world and done, and like you said, where it gets to a point where the werewolves and the vampires have to come together to fight a common enemy, which would be this, this cult-like sect of humanity. And then they will still have some human allies, kind of thing. But the way they did it, they just ended up making the werewolves the bad guys.
Yeah, and that's been I don't get it. And then it's the whole thing, even Michael Ealy said in Underworld Awakens, his wife was a nurse, she got bitten, she got turned, and he was how, he was he adjusted, he's we lived our life like that for a little while, and then the whole thing when the purge happened, when they started going door to door and checking people, which was some real Gestapo type shit, which never really got readdressed.
Yeah, never. It just kind of flew by.
because that was like some real us versus them type shit, and like they never ever once went back to that.
No, yeah, they just really stuck on the vampire and werewolf kind of thing. And I feel like that was a really the downturn of the franchise within Awakenings. Again, I liked Awakenings. I thought it was set up for a good future. But it also started kind of like the downturn as well. The fact that the world that they made within Awakenings, the future that they made within Awakenings was very promising. But the way they wrote it, it literally, like, the whole point of Underworld was that the vampires were the bad guys and the werewolves were the ones that had been demonized when they were just trying to survive. But what they ended up doing was they made which I can't remember the actor's name for the life of me, but he also played in a sci-fi show. Shit, what was it called? It was about the succubus chick. Damn, what was it called? I actually really fucking enjoyed that show.
Was it Lost Girl?
Lost Girl, yes. Lost Girl, thank you. Yeah, the guy who played the detective / werewolf in Lost Girl who actually ended up playing the super Lycan in Underworld's Awakening. So they ended up taking the werewolves who were essentially the good guys, right? And so they took any truce that the vampires and Lycans could have made and threw the shit out the fucking window, right? And that shit that honestly pissed me off very, 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 very strongly.
Well, hold on. Them as far as the Lycans having a truce, like that's one of the things like where they've been like, especially with the way they pulled that off with the everything they did, it'd have been like one of those things like nigga, fuck you. You want this bunny, come spin the block and get it, pussy. Like it'd have been like one of them types of scenarios. Because the vampires have done way too much to them for them to be like, yeah, we're just gonna let all this slide and it's not no big thing. Like you guys enslaved us, you mistreated us. You've done all these things, and now that we're actually at this point where we can fend for ourselves, we're at a pinnacle of power. If anything, we've improved ourselves to the point where you might just wipe y'all out and call it a day. Nah, they had no really use for them at that point. So it was like, what did it matter?
No, so yeah, it wouldn't have been about a use kind of idea or factor, but it could have been a situation where, all right, now everyone knows that we exist, right? We don't have to fight and kill each other anymore. The problems of our ancestors do not need to be our problems. You know, we can look at a brighter future where there is no war. There is no vampire versus Lycan. There is no, we have to kill each other. And that's the way it could have been. Like, listen, we ain't got to get along, but we also don't have to kill each other. And then that phase of like a truce, as in like, all right, fuck you, vampire, fuck you, werewolf. We ain't got to shoot each other, but I don't like you. I don't like you either. That time eventually ends up turning into, because we've already seen a werewolf and a vampire fall in love, Lucius and Sonia. Then we end up seeing a vampire and a Lycan, essentially, with Celine and Michael. So that shows that could happen over time. And my thing is, this bitch Celine was feeding for some dick because she had to, man. She fell in love with this nigga Michael way too goddamn fast. She didn't know nothing about this nigga. She didn't know what job. She didn't really knew shit about him. Right? But from the moment that she saw that man in the viewfinder, she was like, nah, I can't. He's human. Can't do that. Nope, never mind. Right? And then, she starts doing research on him, finds out where he works and shit like that, goes to his house, finds a picture of his like ex-girlfriend or like ex-wife. I can't remember. They never talked about the bitch, but part of me, I only say bitch because I don't know her name. Shout out to Cat William on that one. But yeah, it was just like, that time of peace turns into a time of love. You know what I'm saying? So, like you said, you saw Michael Ealy. He said that his wife was a vampire, right?
Yeah.
So if they can end up getting along with human, that means that time could also have come for vampires and lycans as well. You know what I mean? All species, human, vampire, lycan, coming together, and then you have that one sect, that one cult, all to the side as like, oh no, nah, all you motherfuckers gotta die. So that would be like the group of people that have been wronged by vampires and lycans, and then you have the people. So you have the people that legitimately have a right to be pissed off at vampires and lycans. You know, loved one was killed by a lycan, loved one was killed by a vampire. They were attacked by a vampire, they were attacked by a lycan, whatever. But then you got the other people on the political side of vampires are taking my job, werewolves are taking my job. Then you got those people, the political side of it, that are just like, oh, this is bad for the human race, you know, to have them exist. They're stronger, they're faster. You know, they could just wipe us off the map if we
took
want.
our jobs. Is that what you just did?
What was that?
Did you just go full South Park talking about they took our jobs? Is that what you just did?
Yeah. Yes, that is exactly what the fuck I just did. That's exactly what the fuck I just did. But yeah, no, I can definitely see that had been a world that they end up living in, because they don't really give like a time frame in which like the movies take place. They just give you like how far apart they are. You know what I mean? But you could say that like they took place in whatever time period that the movie was made in, except for clearly Rise of the Lycans. You know what I mean? Like, um, like the first Underworld movie came out in what? It came out in 03, so you can see that movie takes place in 03. And then if you look at it, Evolution took place in 06, so like 3 years later. And then clearly Rise of the Lycans was you know, further away, well, further like back. Like, let's see. So like if I was to say like Rise of the Lycans took place, damn, I don't even. So I would say like, damn, I can't even really put a time. So like, so if the first Underworld movie took place in 2003 and the death of Victor was in 2003, then you know the death of Sonya was like in like,
I'd say the
I'll say
Middle
like
Ages.
like yeah like the 1300s 1400s. And then like Lucian, if you go back, Lucian was born in the 1200s. And then you know you would say like, so actually, oh okay, here we go. I just pulled up a timeline, right? So Marcus turns Victor in like the 5th century. Vampires Werewolf War was in like 1202. And then William was captured in 12. It was also captured in 1202. Then we have Sonya's death was in like I think that says what was I saying? It was like 1302. But Lucius was born, it says here, in 1207. So the time between William's capture and Lucius' birth is only what, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It was only 5 years. So within 5 years from William being captured, human werewolves ended up birthing human-esque. Well, the thing is with Lucian, so it's actually weird. So the thing with Lucian is that his mother was turned into a werewolf in the later months of her pregnancy with him.
Ah.
So like, so Lucian is like Blade. Lucian is like Blade. So with Blade, you know, she was damn near full term with Eric when she got turned. Same thing with essentially with Lucia's mother. She was damn near full term with Lucia's, where she got turned. So when she eventually, the human body still does the human body shit, and so she gave birth to a human baby that happened to have happened to have lycanthropy.
That makes so much more sense now.
Yeah. I honestly, I didn't, that shit didn't make sense to me. I thought it was an evolutionary thing. Was that like the werewolves were around so long that they evolved? But no, it just so happened that he happened to be an anomaly. Because how many women are actually like, are turned, that survive in turn? Right? Because apparently there was two different kinds. There were the people that survived the turn, then there's people that were dead interned. And then the people that survived in turn became more like William, who was a full on like silver bullet type werewolf. Full hulking, looks more like a wolf. He looks like a humanoid wolf. And then you had the other werewolves that just, they had shorter snouts. It was like closer to the face, and the more werewolves, like more wolfman looking type creatures than anything. So
Yeah, that's the feel I felt they tried to go for in Blood Wars.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. But no, yeah. Do me a favor, brother. Take it away, and like let's just hear your take now. I want to hear your take on everything in a whole. Like,
So,
go ahead.
if anything, it was a classic, Romeo and Juliet type story.
Yeah.
You had the whole thing where you had these group of people who were in power who said that these people were beneath them and that they didn't want to be associated with them, and this, that, and the third, they served their purpose, and that was the end of it. Like he said, he literally said to her, "You would risk all this for you to lay with an animal. Like, I raised you better than that."
Mm-hmm.
And then he punishes her by trying to get rid of him, and then she goes with him, and then she reveals the whole thing of her being pregnant, and then that results in him having to kill her for the quote unquote sake of the coven.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was always curious, like in hindsight, did he really kill her for the sake of the coven, because for the sake of the quote unquote purity of the bloodline, which isn't his bloodline to begin with, it's Marcus's, or was he worried about someone questioning his own power?
I think it was the second one. I think
See.
Or honestly, it could have been the latter. It could have been the latter because, if people start to question his reign, then people are so they're gonna be like, oh, hold on, so we can be with a Lycan, and then there goes the bloodline, and then on top of that, now you got people questioning his power. Like, whoa, hold on. Then all right, so let's put it this way. Let's make it political, because this movie, if you really look at it, it's political. It's very political. So if you look at it, you have the vampires that believe in purity, and then you have the people then you have the vampires that are like, and you know what I mean? So you have those that are loyal to Victor's teachings and everything like that, but then you have those that were probably like Sonya, that probably didn't see anything kind of wrong with it. So I saw it as, all right, boom, one, there goes the bloodline, because the people that are like, all right, this is acceptable now, I can do this. Now they're going to do that. There goes the bloodline. But then the other half, you have those that are loyal to Victor and his teachings, and they're like, hey, so you're just going to let your daughter do that shit after you said that we couldn't do that shit, and you're just going to let her rock with that? Oh, what, she gets special treatment because she's your daughter? Oh, hold on. And then there goes his power. So I think it might have been the latter, but more so his own power. But I think it was the latter. Again, shout out to Terramana. What vodka are you drinking?
I have no idea, actually. I had to go back and look at the bottle.
Oh, damn. It's one of them nights. Copy. But yeah, no, I think it was the latter. I definitely think it was the latter.
Okay, so like you have that aspect, and then it's like, and this is another thing too, because it's like Victor, while Victor clearly regretted his decision, and it weighed on him because like even what was the dude's name? No, Craven, yes.
Raven. Yeah.
Even Craven said it. He was like, he spared you because you reminded him so much of his beloved Sonya, the daughter he condemned to death.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like even years later, he never forgot her. And the only reason why he probably didn't kill Celine is because he looked at Celine and he saw his daughter.
Yeah. Because even then they looked a lot alike. Even with and then if you look at like the little bit of personality that we got from from Sonya, it was because it clearly wasn't long. She dies during the movie. But yeah, like you can look at Celine and be like, all right, she has the tenacity, she has the loyalty, she has the drive to be the best that she can possibly fucking be. But then she's also relatively lost. But then we end up finding out, but we find out that all that was bullshit. He only spared her because she looked like that. He was the one
Who
that
killed her
slaughtered
family?
her
Yeah,
family. Yeah. And then he blamed it on Lycans in order to fuel her
hooray!
fire. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then she spent the next 6 centuries hunting them to the point of damn near extinction, or what she
Exactly.
thought was extinction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So no, I like I feel like Victor he still had some level of humanity, right? Because again, he cared about his daughter, but we also cannot forget that he also is a medieval warlord. So what is the most important thing to a warlord? The
Well,
power.
and any man with power is afraid of losing his power. Any man with power wants more power. So yeah,
Exactly. So, although he loved his daughter, he's like, he's like, I can't let this slide, because if I let it slide, then there goes my power, and then there goes the race, and the whole point of, like, so the thing is, Marcus, and I feel like this is why Marcus ended up sleeping for so long, because one, he was the first, he knew the truth, he didn't hold any anger or resentment towards Lycans and werewolves,
at
because
all.
his brother, he loved his brother. He's like, we are one, we're one. We stem from the same family. We are one.
He's like, and they're
He
twins. On
Yeah,
top of that,
oh yeah, you're right. They're twins. They're fucking twins. Yep, they're twins. So it's like, so he loved his brother. But if Marcus was allowed to be alive, I'm pretty sure they would be no war between the two of them, because all this shit started with Victor. Marcus hadn't even had a chance, because Marcus went to sleep when they captured William and put him in the chamber and locked him away. Now, mind you, here's the thing: William was locked away for 3 centuries, 3,000 years, and he was still alive. That goes to show how strong he truly was. 3 centuries without eating. He hadn't fed. So when him and Michael fought, this nigga was pretty much running on E. He was running on empty. 3,000 years of nothing.
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah. I recently went through like the playlist that I sent I sent you guys, goes through it. He's like, you got to think about it. A lot of people were upset that they allowed Michael, who was a hybrid, to take out William so easily. But you got to think about it. William hasn't fed. He wasn't at full strength, not even close to it. He had just woken up, because he ended up going into a hibernative state for those 3,000 years. just like the vampires did when they went to sleep. Because I'm pretty sure Selene could have wrecked Victor when he first woke up.
Oh yeah. Because what was the
Right?
first thing she did was hook him up to all the blood. Yeah,
Exactly.
you're right.
Yep. He had to feed. He had to regenerate. And every time we saw Victor, he was, he was more of a, looked more human. And so my thing is it's like, if Marcus was alive, there would be no war. So Marcus had been asleep since William went to sleep. 3,000 years.
It's a long ass nap.
Yeah, because it was if memory serves me correctly, after all that, Amelia and Marcus went to sleep. Victor reigned for the first 1,000 years. Victor went to sleep, and then Amelia reigned for another 1,000 years. Right? But I'm pretty sure there was 1,000 years before any of them went to sleep. Kind of, sort of. That's the only thing that makes sense. So since William was asleep for 3,000 years, there was like 1,000 years that they were alive, and then Marcus and Amelia went to sleep, and that's when Victor implemented, like, all right, hey, listen, we got a lot of different views here. I think only one of us should rule at a time, and then also, hey, Marcus, just to keep our secret between us, I really think we should, one at a time. But I also think that was Victor's way of holding power, because Amelia was directly underneath Victor, so her allegiance fell to Victor, because everyone thought that Marcus was like off to the side. Everyone thinks that Victor was the first vampire, and then Victor turned Amelia, and then Marcus. So Amelia had that higher rank. So that Amelia was loyal to Victor, not loyal to Marcus. So she was able to hold the same reign that Victor had, because Marcus wasn't supposed to be brought. Victor wasn't supposed to be brought back to life for another 1,000 years. He wasn't supposed to be waking up for another 1,000 years. So when they went to sleep, Victor reigned, then he went to sleep, Amelia reigned, and then, as we see, it was only like 3 days away from Amelia going back to sleep and Marcus waking up. So I'm thinking, if Selene wouldn't have intervened and let Marcus be awakened, would Marcus have put a stop to all the shit that was going on? Because here's the thing, Marcus wouldn't have known about Victor, known about Lucian.
Well, the reason why Marcus knew everything he knew is because Victor kills that one werewolf, and Marcus actually drunk his blood.
Yeah, that shit clicked to me just now, because the way they have it is that vampires are able to read memories when they bite, and they're able to read a person's memory from their blood. So when Selene woke Victor, he had all her memories, right? And that's why he was so pissed when she woke him, because she's like, you are not an elder. Apparently the elders, which were the main three, are the only ones that had the ability to
do it properly.
Take all their memories. The way he described it is take all their memories and put it into one vision. All the memories of that 1,000 years, they're able to condense it into one vision. They're able to remember everything into one vision, so the next person understands what happened while they were asleep, as if it was their own memory. So yeah, when the Lycan scientist was killed by Victor, when he punched that shit was dope. That nigga punched his face off. Like, this thing was so strong. he punched another nigga's face off.
He goes, the second Lucian. He's like, Lucian is dead. He's like, according to whom? He looks he looks where he looks for.
This nigga looked for Craven. This nigga was gone.
Oh God!
This nigga ghost. This nigga according to who? What do you mean, Nick? Hey, this nigga, bro, that nigga Craven dipped so fucking fast. He knew it was coming. He fucking knew it was coming, bro. And it's wild because he was pissed off. Like he's the one that brought the scientists to Victor. Because Victor was like, I'm not gonna lie, I was rewatching it last night and I fell asleep before it got to that part. But yeah, the blood of the Lycan ended up falling into Marcus's chamber, which is what woke Marcus. Which I'm pretty sure he's like, I got this werewolf blood in my mouth. This is nasty. That's probably why the nigga woke up cranky. That's part of the reason why the nigga woke up cranky. This nigga woke up with the taste of werewolf blood in his mouth. And then to see all the travesties that happened to essentially all his nieces and nephews, because the way they see it, if you're bitten, like you're a child to whoever bit you. You know what I mean? So technically, all the werewolves, all the Lycans, all the werewolf and Lycans, because they're two different species, the werewolf and Lycans are essentially Marcus's nephews, nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
So, nigga, I know how you are about your nieces and nephews, and I'm the same way about my nieces and nephews. I wake up and find out that niggas have been killing my nieces and nephews for centuries. Oh, I am vexed.
Right, and even like when he landed, and Celine tried to talk him down, and she's like, I'm gonna show you, Victor deserved his fate. She's like, Victor deserved his fate. She's like, and Craven was a traitor, and he's like, yeah, Victor did deserve his fate many times over, and Craven, I've already dealt with him. He didn't give a fuck about none of that shit.
Yeah. Yep. None of it, because he actually ends up bleeding. He ends up drinking Craven. That's how Craven ends up dying, because Marcus ends up murking him out.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up drinking his blood, and that's when he finds out every fucking thing. All the pieces from the Lycan doctor, everything starts to get kind of like put into place through Craven's memories. And so he's like, all right, you know what? We're gonna stop this shit. Let me go get my brother. I'm gonna go get my brother, and we're gonna put a stop to this shit.
And even then, he was like, you ever wonder why so much effort was taken to cover all this up, especially for me?
Right. And they all find this out by finding they end up finding like he's an exiled vampire. And he's only exiled because he was the only other person that knew the truth. So Victor demonized him and exiled him. Because if he killed him, he would be like, oh, yo, something's fishy here. So they just exiled him and had him surrounded by a bunch of werewolves. And so so he was the only nigga that knew the truth about everything. He knew the truth about Victor, about Marcus, about William, because he was alive. He was right there with him when all that shit was going on. He's like he was like one of the fourth oldest vampires. But yeah, so he ended up knowing everything, every fucking thing. That's how they ended up finding out about Alexander Corvinus and him still being alive and him kind of like running the show and cleaning up after everyone, after the fact and shit like that. Yeah, man. I feel like the first two movies did such a good job at talking about the lore. And then with the prequel, bringing it back to, you can see the start of the lore that they were talking about. And then the last movie, I'm gonna say the last movie because I really do not count Blood War at all. That it just went completely 100% against everything that the first 4 movies set up. They killed Michael off screen,
which did a complete disservice to the character and the franchise as a whole.
Exactly. I think they were like, oh well, we got their daughter Eve. That's her name. Her name is Eve. Like we got their daughter Eve. So why do we need another hybrid? You need the mother and father, and then the daughter as well, to show that, all right, werewolves and vampires can be together, and look what they create, something better, something stronger. You know what I mean? I mean, technically, Michael was a Lycan first.
Technically,
he was a Lycan first. He didn't become a hybrid until the end. And that scene was crazy in that first movie. His first transformation, where they end up having to stop his transformation. That shit is crazy. So apparently, within the lore, newborn Lycans only transform during a full moon, and then as they get older, with time, they learn how to harness their anger to transform themselves. So when you're bitten, it's not one of those situations where all right, you're forced to change on your first full moon, then after that you can change at will. No. You transform on that on the full moon until you're able to control your transformation, and then you can transform whenever you want. So I thought that was cool to keep it rooted in the what everyone knows as the regular werewolf lore. You transform on the full moon. But then over time you get to you can transform, and then when you get to the age of kind of like Lucian's age, you're able to transform certain parts of your body. Like he was able to transform his eyes, he was able to transform his mouth, but then he was also able to transform his hands, use claws and shit like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. Overall, my overall thoughts on the film itself, on the franchise itself, was that it had the first 2 movies gave it a lot of potential, and then I thought the third was great. It gave it a lot of potential to be a lot of great things, but then it just it went down the drain really, really fast. The Underworld movies are they're not talked about as much as they should have been, but there are a lot of people that hail Underworld as the modern best the best representation of modern werewolves and vampires. And
I mean, I guess it depends on what we're comparing you to, because vampires and werewolves, especially in modern day lore or modern day culture, that monster aspect has become so sparse or so scarce. It's not really done at all, and if it is done, it's not done well. I can't think what the last good movie was I saw about werewolves outside of Benicio del Toro playing the Wolfman.
Honestly, for me, yeah, that was the last good werewolf movie that I watched. Apparently there's actually a new werewolf movie coming out with our mans that played Jon Snow.
Kit Harington.
Yeah, Kit Harington. Yeah, there's a new werewolf movie coming out with him in it. So that I'm interested in that. But no, you're absolutely right. But when people think back to the last good, and I think the last good vampire movie for me, I personally really enjoyed Dracula Untold.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, dude, you got it. I thought it was really, really good. And then I feel like if I was to go after Dracula Untold, they're on Netflix, and through the BBC, there was the British Broadcasting, what is it? British Broadcasting Communications or something like that. There's a 3-part series called just Dracula. It's on Netflix, and each episode is like an hour and a half long. They're like individual movies, and it tells the tale of essentially Bram Stoker's Dracula. That was, and it goes from beginning all the way to modern time, and it's 3 parts. So each part takes place in a different kind of like time period. It even there was a vampire movie that just came out, The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which is essentially Dracula's story, how he goes from Europe to America. He took the ship, the Demeter, from, and he killed everyone on the ship, and then he just rode the ship to America. So I think those were the last 2 good like vampire movies, but again, they weren't modernized. They were still sticking to the medieval, an ancient style of like, of like the vampire. So that's why when I say modern vampire, and even then you can't even look at the Wolfman either, because that wasn't modern werewolf either. That was a period piece. Same thing with all the rest of the kind of like the vampire shit that comes out. It's like all period pieces. Underworld took place within the day and age in which it was, it was put out. The first Underworld movie takes place in 2003. Those are vampires and werewolves in 2003. Evolution, those are vampires and werewolves in 2006. You know what I mean? But so to me, like we don't count Twilight. Twilight, let me get real close to the mic on this one.
Oh God.
Twilight does not count as a vampire movie. Am I right or wrong? I don't count that shit. No. And again, I'm not saying I wasn't fucking Twilight crazy either. I wasn't saying I'm not Twilight crazy when I was in high school, right? I wasn't crazy, but I was interested. But that's not Underworld. You know what I mean? That's not the dark grittiness of the Underworld, of immortals, of vampires and werewolves / lycans. It's just not. So to me, Underworld, the series Underworld, is modern vampires, and vampires and shit and werewolves in modern times. So a lot of people go back to that, like, yeah, this is it. That's the shit. We haven't seen a modern vampire, modern werewolf movie like that takes place in modern times. Not to my knowledge. I don't know of any.
Not that's done well. I mean, they've made little stuff here and there. Like if you ever watched Being Human or or Bitten.
Yeah.
But it was like I said, if anything, like them having that war the way they did with the fucking reckless abandonment and them shooting through subways and streets and alleyways, everything else. So it's like, if anything, all they did was just draw too much attention to themselves.
Well, that was the other thing that Selena also talked about. And it's weird. I was on that track and I didn't get to it. But that's what she says when she goes back and puts the gun down in front of the guy that was in charge of, the armory and shit like that. She pointed out, it's like, yo, they shot at us in a public subway station. That's unheard of. They're getting more. That's what concerned her the most. She's like, these guys are getting brazen for what? Why do they have this much confidence to open fire on us in a public setting like this? This shit's different. something's wrong. So something's not right. They moving different out here. And honestly, I'm looking through. I don't see any like good vampire movies that take place in like modern times. They just did this year. They just dropped actually a few days ago. They just dropped a remake of Salem's Lot, which is an
I
older.
just watched that yesterday.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of the originals because there's two. There's Salem's Lot, then there's Return to Salem's Lot. I haven't watched any of these, so I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna watch Salem's Lot, Return to Salem's Lot. Then I'm gonna watch this remake that they just dropped this year. But even then, doesn't that take place in a different time frame, different time period?
Yeah, it's definitely set in the 70s.
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, I think that isn't that when the original movies were made. Yeah. So the first Salem's Lot was in 1978. Yeah, so the Salem's Lot movies are from the 70s. And then Dracula Reborn, that came out in like 2015, I think. But and here's the thing, they had a character in Dracula Reborn whose name was Corvinus.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. But it takes place in Transylvania. But then you got a comedy. Then I think it's called What Happens in the Dark. It's like it's a remake of an old show, but it's a comedy that does take place in modern time, but that don't count either. That doesn't count either because it's a comedy. It's not real down to the nitty-gritty of vampire lore. It's not down to the nitty-gritty of of werewolves and shit like that. You know what I mean? And then they're also doing a remake for Nosferatu that comes out I think either later this year or early next year. They're literally doing a Nosferatu film.
I have seen that. I don't know how it's gonna go over, but
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but of course it's a Skarsgård film. It's a Skarsgård film.
He's playing Nosferatu.
He's playing Count Orlok. Which yeah, Count Orlok is Nosferatu. Yeah, he's playing Nosferatu. Which means that's the second vampire that he's played. Bill Skarsgård. Interesting. Very, very, very fucking interesting. I mean, he needs something to work for him because The Crow was an absolute shit show. I haven't even watched it. I haven't even watched it yet. And I know it's gonna I know it's a shit show. I know it's a shit show. But so to have The Crow come out and do so horribly, and then to have Nosferatu drop, and if that does horribly, Bill, you're gonna need to take a break from acting for a while, because or you need to fire your fucking agent, Bill, and you need to start getting represented by your brother and your father, because the last good thing that I saw Bill Skarsgård in was the It movies and that comedy shit that he dropped, Boy Kills World. I haven't watched it yet, but the shit looks funny, and I'm gonna watch it as soon as I can. But yeah, no, there's William Dafoe, William Dafoe, because his name is not William, is Will Elm, Willem, Will Elm. Dafoe is also in that movie as well, and then he has Nicholas Hoult, who played Beast, the younger version of Beast, is also in that movie. So there's some decent. Aaron Taylor Johnson is in there as well. Mr. Plate in Godzilla, Mr. fucking Quicksilver as well. So there's I don't see any vampire movies that are made about present day. The other thing I can think of is 30 Days of Night. And that came out in 2007. That's the only other thing I can think about vampires in modern time was 30 Days of Night. Oh, bro, I feel like an asshole. Wonderful vampire movie I completely forgot about that takes place in modern times and is kind of like an elevated kind of like futuristic vampire shit. And it stars Ethan Hawke and William Dafoe. Daybreakers. You ever watched Daybreakers before?
I have. I said Daywalkers. Yeah, it's my fault.
Yeah. Daybreakers, that was a solid ass fucking movie to me. That was such a solid fucking movie for me. We got Ethan Hawke, William Dafoe, Claudia Carvan, and oh shit, what's his name from the Jurassic Park films? Like the main dude from the Jurassic Park movies.
That was him.
Damn. Sam Neill.
I never paid that no attention.
Yep, Sam Neill. Yeah. Looking yeah, so it was a really awesome main cast. Because William Dafoe plays like a human detective or whatever, while Sam Neill plays like he was like the head vampire in charge, while Ethan Hawke was a vampire that was kind of just under him in a way. But they end up finding out you end up finding out that there's like a cure for vampirism, and the cure for vampirism is to pretty much be in the sunlight, and essentially burns the vampirism out of you. Sorry, spoiler alert. But no, Daybreakers is a good ass movie. It's a great fucking movie. So yeah, no, so I'll say the best pardon me, yeah. So the best modern vampire film that I've seen that takes place with vampires in modern day was back in 2009 with Daybreakers. And so yeah, that's it. And that was in 2009. 2009. Like, I mean, we got Interview with a Vampire, the series right now, which is like both a period piece and a modern piece at the same time. So I don't know. I don't know how I think the show is absolutely fucking phenomenal. I've only seen the first season. I'm gonna start watching the second season, I think, after next week. Because I know they just started the third.
Yes.
You know, were you gonna tell me that they changed the actress for Claudia?
I did not. But they didn't give a reason why they did that, but they did do it, and I just rolled with it.
Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed her. I enjoyed her very much.
I guess like one of the things that they did because they age her up because they did that in the original movie. Have you ever seen the original movie with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
So yeah. So I guess like in the books, the child of Claudia is 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's one of the things that draws so much attention to them because she never gets older.
Yeah. Yep. And that's why Lestat was so pissed at Louis for changing her because like she's never gonna age. She's not gonna age right. But I would have rather. No, they don't. They never age. So yeah, they did age her up. Yeah. Because in that she was what, like 11, 12?
I'd say 14.
Yeah. She looked about 14. And yeah, no, everyone started getting suspicious, but nobody said shit really about it. One sec, let me take another sip. Y'all hear that? That's the sound of a good bottle of fucking tequila right there popping. But yeah, like those are the only two I can really say that were good vampires in modern time, again, Twilight doesn't count. Interview with a Vampire, at least the way they're doing it now, because it takes place in both time periods, and then 30 Days a Night and Daybreakers. So to me, I don't know if anyone else feels the same way as me, but no, yeah, there's at the end of the day, I feel like Underworld, especially with that cyber goth look, the visuals on the Lycans, the visuals on just the entirety of the aesthetic of the films. I thought they were they were great. I thought they were great until you get to 4 and 5, which do take a downward spiral, and 3 fucking crashes a plane into the tower. I'm sorry, not 3. Blood Wars crashes the plane into the tower. That's the way I see it. But yeah, as we wrap up here, what with Underworld? All right, so what are some of the things that you think they could have did better overall, and then what do you have liked to see them do going forward? If they were to revive the Underworld series, they were to get Scott Speedman back, Kate Beckinsale come back, they were to retcon Blood Wars. So the movie leaves off on at the end of Awakenings, where she finds out that Michael is still alive, and that how would you like to see them carry it from there? Plus, what are some of the things you thought they did right and did wrong in Underworld?
You said what are some of the well, like I said, the biggest mistake was them killing off Scott Speedman and them doing it off screen. So by them killing him off screen and then having it not have he more or less died like a bitch. Like there was no greater sacrifice. There was no last stand. There was no it was just that was just all poor writing to me. Like if Scott Speedman didn't want to come back, or if they couldn't have figured something out, or they couldn't make it work, they either A, should have put the shit on the shelf till he got situated, or B, shouldn't have done it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that first and foremost. 2, I think it's one of those things where Blood Wars, like I said, that shit went so far left between, like you said, it was based in, like you said, it was almost like you would have took it as being supernatural, but in actuality, it was based in more science and mutation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if that was the case, if it was evolution, it should have continued with that aspect. And if there was going to be some mysticism involved, it should have been mysticism that was at least grounded in reality.
Yeah, as in they find out that the energy so the sun reflects off of the moon, and then that that moon the energy gets converted by the moon, and somehow it supercharges their cells and shit like that, and makes them stronger. That shit would made more sense, because by the end of Evolution, Selene is able to walk in daylight because she directly ingested the blood of Alexander Corvinus, of the Immortal, so she has complete immunity to the daylight. So they should have had it as the moon, the energy from the moon, the UV rays for the moon supercharges their cells. If they did some kind of if they dipped their body and infuse their cells with this certain water from this certain area that has these chemical properties, what I mean? You're absolutely right. They should have based the mysticism, they should have had an air, it should have been an air of mysticism with its roots in genetics. You're absolutely fucking right. Absolutely fucking right. You're absolutely fucking right. Now, from Awakenings, where do you think where would you have liked them to go? Or actually, if you were the person writing Underworld, where would you have taken the script? How would you have written the script going forward from Awakenings?
Well, there's only one of three ways this could have gone.
Mm-hmm.
One is the whole coexistence or struggling to coexist with the humans and each other. Two could have been them finding some common ground and going to war with the humans.
Mm-hmm.
Or three would have been them faking their deaths, and it's like them dying and then hiding in seclusion to the point where, oh, they're going to reestablish themselves, or oh, they were going to do this, or oh, they were going to do that. So to the point where it's like, all right, you guys stay over there. That can be your haven. We'll stay here, and this will be our haven. If anyone comes looking for us or comes on our doorstep, we give them a fight. Or anyone who stumbles upon us, it can either stay or disappear.
Mm-hmm.
See, so like, because it's like even then, like, you know what I mean? Like, we get the fact that they know Celine and what was the Amelia's son's name?
Amelia's son.
Yeah. Oh, what was his name?
The dude that she brings back to life.
Yes. That she jump starts his heart.
Oh, damn. Damn, what was his name? Because he ends up being stronger because now he also has the blood of Alexander Corvinus. So not only does he have a blood of one of the oldest vampires, but he also has the blood of Alexander Corvinus in his bloodline as well. Ah, shit. Damn, what was his name? Give me a sec. Yeah, I'm it's right there. David. I know it started with a D. His name was David. He's played by Theo James, who he's a underrated B-list actor. He is definitely an underrated B-list actor because we got Divergent, the new series on Netflix, The Gentleman. He was in all three Divergent movies. Fucking How It Ends, Lying and Stealing, The Time Traveler's Wife. So yeah, he has a decent fucking track record. A really fucking decent track record as well. He was a voice actor in Castlevania, the Netflix series Castlevania as well. He played the voice of Hector. Yeah, this man he was in The Benefactor, Golden Boy. He was in has a new movie that's coming out. He's gonna be in a new movie that's coming out called The Monkey. Yeah, no, this man has his track record is long. He has a long ass track record. So he's a very, very underrated B-list actor. Hella fucking underrated. He was even in the 2009 continuation of The Dark Crystal as well. So yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot that he's done and that he definitely needs to get more recognition for. But yeah, no, he played David. That was his name. But yeah, that would have been interesting because clearly there was another spark between them two. And I don't know where that would have went, but so okay, how would you have wrote that? Because I don't know. Me personally, I don't know how I would have brought that in because the whole thing was supposed to be about a vampire and a Lycan getting together, but clearly there was some kind of chemistry between her and David as well.
I took their chemistry as more little brother, big sister.
Okay. But yeah, how would you I don't know. So if it was me, I would have. Okay, hold on. So you were going on about the one way that what is the one way out of those three ways that they should have taken it that would have made the most sense?
To me, I think it would have been one of those things like where and like human beings would have never accepted like an uneasy peace. They've never been like, oh, this supernatural world exists and that's the end of it. If anything, the war should have happened between humans and werewolves and vampires, and then they should have drew the line where it's like, you know what I mean? If you guys have your haven where it is, you guys stay there and don't come out of it. If you do, there's going to be an issue. But the government also would never let that fly. So it's like, if worst case scenario, they nuke them all and sort them all out.
Yeah, because that's the way they end up having it. That's the way they described it in the beginning of Awakenings, is that the humans found out about it and they went to war with them too. And that's why Celine and Michael were gonna go on a ship and go out to some faraway fucking land, but they end up getting captured. Well, to her knowledge, Michael ends up being killed because he gets hit with a fucking silver nitrate fucking grenade launcher. And so she thought he was dead, and they were supposed to take a ship and go on some faraway land together and shit like that, and have their kid. And well, at that point, I don't think she knew that she was pregnant. No, she did know that she was pregnant, and the whole time she was getting flashes of her daughter, and she was trying to find her daughter or her child. We kind of find out, like, the whole time she had been hiding away, fucking feeding off of Lycans the whole time. Because Lycans had become like this kind of like, what's it like? They were suffering from like mange and shit like that, and like there was Lycans that were living as humans, but there were Lycans who had reverted back to their primal instincts and shit like that to survive. Yeah, I feel like the world that they created within Awakenings was so hectic that they really could have did a lot with it, and they could have brought it to a point of, like you said, battle lines were drawn, and then the humans were the ones who crossed the line, and now the werewolves and vampires have to pull together in an uneasy truce in order to find either eradicate humans or find common grounds with humans. And I think where the truce ends up broken is that Celine sees that there's humans that are sympathetic to the, I'll say paranormal. I'll say paranormal instead of supernatural, because supernatural brings in magic. Paranormal means something that is a little beyond normal. It's like it's normal, but it's a little more than that. It's not full supernatural. So I will call them paranormal creatures. Because with supernatural, then you start talking about ghosts and shit. And we haven't seen any signs of that within that universe. So I think she starts to see that there's sympathetic humans, but then there's whoever's leading the Lycans is like, nah, fuck all humans. Listen, we sat back. Lucian made a deal with one of your kind, and we had to live under your thumb and live in the sewers. Fuck that. I'm not trying to make a truce with these humans and end up having to live underneath their thumb as essentially sub beings. No, fuck that. We are who we are, and if anybody got a problem with it, they gonna catch these claws. And so he's like, no, fuck that. Kill all humans. Destroy all humans. If you know, you know. While Slim's like, nah, we can't do that. And so that's where those battle lines between the vampires and the Lycans end up getting crossed. When the Lycans are like, kill everyone, and the vampire's like, whoa, hold on, no. We can probably kill some of them, not all of them, because not all of them are bad.
But that's also one of the things, like, well, I don't think that would ever really work, because then that destroys the food source. So that's one of the reasons why that would never fly. And two,
oh yeah, well, maybe not like kill them all, but like no, they're gonna be submissive to us, like more of a dominate all instead of fuck coexistence. We're gonna start farming them, and essentially, and if they wanted to make the Lycans the actual bad guys, that would have been the way to do it. The Lycans end up taking the mentality of Victor. Victor is like, all right, that's what he was doing. He's like, humans are kind of our food source, so we're gonna keep them under our thumb. We're not gonna kill them all. We're gonna keep them under our thumb, so we still have our food source, and then but we also keep our power as well. So that could be kind of like the direction that the Lycans end up taking. It's like, yeah, well, fuck coexistence. No, we did that before, and we were hunted to the brink of extinction. We almost went extinct. Yeah, no, we're not coexisting. We're dominating it this time. And if
Or
y'all got a problem with it, y'all can get dominated too. Take that.
pause. Or no, or the other thing I think they could do, and this is one of those things like where it might not work, but it would probably be a good direction, is if because I noticed how heavily the series is shifted around Celine. If they had someone on the werewolf side who was like their Celine, who actually gave the point where it's like, yo, this, that, and the third. If y'all want to coexist, or y'all want to do this, we have to find some common ground. Like, because there really is no one on the werewolf side who's like that. Everyone just goes to the ultimate extreme. And that's why they get painted as like the bad guys or the anti-heroes. But if anything, like, they're the ones with the ultimate axe to grind.
No, you're right. You're right. I don't know. So is there an ending to this story where they can find some kind of coexistence? I don't know. And like all three species, both human, both human, vampire, and werewolf, is there's a way to find that coexistence? And next thing you know, you just have a bunch of human, vampire, werewolf beings running around.
I mean, that sounds a lot like peace to me. And we all have a philosophy about peace. Y'all know our philosophy about peace.
Yeah. Y'all know that, right? Y'all know that. If y'all watch and drop in the comments, peace is a lie. There's only passion. But even then, even on the human side, they wouldn't that wouldn't be allowed, because with the intermingling of species, then the idea of human and humanity would go extinct. That was a whole problem with mutants and humans. Like, if mutants and humans keep was it copulating or whatever that word is, if they keep mingling together, then a pure human or someone who is human will no longer exist. Everyone would either be vampire, werewolf, or some part of the line of part vampire, part werewolf, part human, somewhere down the line. Vampire human gets together, makes a hybrid gets with a human. Now that child is only becomes a quarter human. And then if that quarter human child ends up being with another human, now that or with a vampire, now that human side gets even more diluted and then just gets more diluted down the line. And then the idea of humanity, of what is humanity, gets thrown out the window.
Well, my whole thing with this is that it becomes either one of two things. All right. It either becomes a Halloween scenario where the retcon has to come in and save it, and hopefully it does it and does it justice, or it becomes a Terminator scenario where it's like they keep adding on to it, they retcon it, they change it, but all it does is harm the original set.
Exactly. But with both of those franchises, they had to retcon large portions of their like multiple movies. Like Halloween had to retcon like 3-4 movies before they got to their final line of canon, and it's only one and then the last 2 movies, even though there's like damn near 10 Halloween movies.
I think it's more like 12, but not. So like the whole thing is like you have the original 2, and then you have the new Halloween. I forget what it is. Halloween Kills and then Halloween Ends. So technically, there's 5 movies in the franchise. If I'm speaking correctly, if I'm wrong, someone please correct me. But Even then, like something that was supposed to be as simple as it was, as a simple retcon turned into three more movies.
Well, even then, there's technically 3 separate timelines as well, because there's a timeline where Halloween 2 isn't a part, and then because you got the Rob Zombies, you also got to remember you got the Rob Zombies Halloweens as well.
I wasn't counting them. Not that they're bad, not that they're bad. I just wasn't counting them in this moment. But continue.
Yeah, but when you look at the timeline wise, the Rob Zombie timeline, like built off of the first Halloween movie, but it takes its own direction with it. So there's the 3 Rob Zombie movies, right? There was 3 of them, right? Or 2. 2. You got 2 Rob Zombie Halloween movies. Then you have the 4 or 5 original Halloween movies. There's just so many Halloween movies, but only certain ones are part of the timeline. And if you look at Terminator, the current canon timeline Terminator movies are Terminator 1, I think 2,
Judgment Day, yes,
and then the last one that came out. Even though I know Salvation was supposed to be, it's something. There's Terminator 1, Terminator 2, then there's Salvation, and No. I'm sorry. There's Terminator 1, Terminator 2, and then there's the Terminator with the chick that kind of looks like Ronda Rousey.
Rise of the Machines is what you're thinking.
Yeah, Rise of Machines. And then Salvation was supposed to be a continuation. Well, it's supposed to be the future of Rise of the Machines. And then you have the one when Arnie first came back, and then the one after that.
So it was, yeah. But even then, like I said, the more that's done with it, the more potentially hurts it. So if they retcon, they got to do it and do it well, and have it be about telling a good story and not about a money grab.
Absolutely. Because bringing Arnie back in Terminator was absolutely a money grab, but also trying to fix which I didn't really find any issues with the way they had it. It was just a money grab.
With the way they have what?
Oh, Terminator. I didn't really find any issue with the way they had it, but they needed a money grab, and so they brought Arnie back, which ended up fucking up the storyline. Because the first one they brought Arnie back goes all the way back to the first one, and it creates a time paradox.
Oh, you know how we feel about those.
Yeah. So, but no, overall, I thought the first 3 Underworld movies was good. The franchise in a whole, I feel like the franchise ended up just didn't go where it really where it could have gone. It ended up being poor writing and money grab towards the end. But I felt like for the time, for the early 2000s, the Underworld movies were peak vampire werewolf for the time. For the early 2000s was peak vampire werewolf. Fuck Twilight. That's how I feel. Your final remarks.
My final remarks are is that if you're going to do something that could possibly I want to say that. If I had to pick final remarks, my final remarks would be always be true to yourself, always be true to your people, always be true to your nature. And it's remember that if those things do not coincide, that it could be a long, harsh journey for you. But remember that your journey is always one of your own making.
It's fucking solid. With me, my final remarks on everything would be, what I've learned from, deep diving into this and stuff like that is, again, just be true to yourself. Because this was a very big franchise when it came out. It could have been really, really great, but again, they turned away from the product that they made and ended up going for the money grab. You know what I mean? Do what you love and the money will come. That's a standard that I've always lived by, and I will always live by. If you do what you love, the money will come. Don't overstretch yourself. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Keeping up with the Joneses is how you get yourself fucked over. You were not the Joneses, and that's what ended up happening with these movies. They just started trying to keep it going, keep grabbing the money, and they just essentially said, "Fuck the lore, fuck who they were, fuck fuck what these movies are. This is what we're making it." And yeah, just do what you love. Whether you're a creative, write art, create what you love, and the money will come. Just don't worry about the money now. The money will come later. And next thing you know, you're fucking rolling in it. And you don't remember how you got here. All you know is that you were happy while you did it. But no, that has been it. This episode has gone a little bit longer than we initially intended it to. But no, the Underworld movies were great. I suggest going and watching the first 3. If you're interested, watch the 4th one. Do not recommend watching Blood Wars. Do not watch Blood Wars. It will ruin the entire experience for you. It will ruin the entire experiences for you. That was a situation where I would have rather have it been left at a cliffhanger than them trying to continue. But no, with that being said, that has been the Super Breakdown. Tune in next week. What did we say we're going over next week?
Next week is the 12th. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. We planned out this month already. I can't remember
thoroughly, and I don't know how we're not.
Yeah, but the 20th, there will not be a show on the 20th. We're taking a break for that week on the 20th. There is no show on October 20th. All right. But before we go, let's give a belated birthday shout out to Darth Legacy himself. Jason M40, happy birthday, happy belated birthday, brother.
Happy birthday, man.
All right, with that, we'll catch y'all next week. And remember, as always, fuck prep time.
Fuck prep time.
Yeah.